My name is David Allardice, brand ambassador for Glenfiddich, single malt Scotch whisky, and today I'm going to run through how you can host your own Scotch tasting. Scotch isn't all about grandfathers, slippers and pipes sitting by the fire. A lot of young people are getting into single malt Scotch whisky. It's a very fast growing spirits category and there's a lot of complex flavours to be found in all kinds of Scotch whisky. The two main categories of Scotch whisky would be blended whisky or single malt. Single malt basically means that the whisky comes from one single distillery and the grain used is malted barley. Quite simple. Glenfiddich, we've been making whisky for 125 years. We're celebrating 125th year this year, and William Grant was the gentleman who had the vision to have the best dram in the valley, and 125 years later we're lucky enough to say that we do have the #1 selling single malt in the world. So we're here at the Old Town Poorhouse in Chicago, and this is a fantastic little spot to come and have a dram. And I'd just like to give you a few pointers on the essentials for having your own Scotch tasting. You can host it in a bar, you can host it at home. I suggest you bring a few friends. Perhaps they can bring a bottle of Scotch with them to ease the burden of the cost. What you want to do is find a nice comfortable environment, somewhere where you don't have people cooking Mexican food or Indian food in the background. You don't want a lot of smells going on other than the whisky. Also, don't slap on a lot of cologne before a Scotch tasting. The other essentials that we have is a tasting mat. If you don't have a fancy tasting mat such as this one, then bring some pieces of paper and you can actually draw circles around your glasses, and then what you can do is you can actually note different aromas, which whiskies you were tasting and which ones were your favourite, which ones you didn't like so much. Obviously you'll need some glassware. We have some very nice Glenfiddich Glencairn glasses here. Very good glasses for a Scotch tasting. Not everyone has these, so use what you have that's closest to that. The reason we use these glasses is because they're tulip shaped at the top, and that allows the aromas to form at the top of the glass so they don't escape as easily. If you use a rocks glass, which is okay, but not ideal, you can still have a good Scotch tasting. But if you can have something as similar to this as possible, perhaps a wine glass or a brandy glass would work just perfectly. The water and the ice that you see here is definitely something for exploration, different tastes. I wouldn't say there's any rules to drinking Scotch whisky, however, use the water and the ice to tailor the whisky to your flavour, to your palate. We do a couple of different things when we do Scotch tastings. We nose the whisky. You can get most of the aromas from nosing the whisky, just very gently. Don't have to stick your nose right in there. 40% alcohol at least, has to be that to be a Scotch whisky. So it's not like nosing a glass of wine. What you want to do then is taste the whisky neat and then revisit it with a few drops of water. The water's going to reduce the alcohol slightly and then open up a few more flavours for you. And if you really find the Scotch a difficult flavour to contend with, maybe for the younger palate or someone that's completely new to Scotch, try a few cubes of ice, but no more than 1 or 2 I would suggest. The more ice you put in, the more you're going to contract the flavours and the more difficult it's going to be to actually experience and appreciate what is in the glass. If you want to find out more about Scotch whisky in general, you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/GlenfiddichDA. You can also visit the Glenfiddich website, glenfiddich.com. And if you want to find out more about what's going on in Chicago, please visit chicagomonthlyMag.com and you can find out all the interesting events and things that are going on in the city. So I've been David Allardice, thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great Scotch tasting next time around. Sanjava.